I want to know everything there is to know about you.
I am going to introduce me.
You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Don't I deserve love?
Somebody has to like me best.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Don't Know Her podcast. I am Scott and I am joined, as always, by my favourite co-host, Michael. But before I let Michael talk, I have to say the happiest of birthdays to you, Michael. This is your special episode. How are you doing today?
Well, nobody likes to get older, Scott. But I'm really grateful that you took the time to press record and ask me how I'm feeling.
Oh, my pleasure. But I mean, not that anyone can see this because we're not kind enough to let the world into our perfect visage. But you're looking younger, if anything.
I know somebody aged me there for or ID'd me even for alcohol
Wow.
the other day.
Gosh.
Yeah,
what
I'm trying to figure out whether you're gonna think that's real or not.
No, I believe it's real. I mean, turning 18 again is always a nice thing, and you don't look a day over it.
No, I was not ID'd. But you know what?
Oh God, I thought you might have been. You could have been.
That's very sweet of you. But as our subject today shows, age doesn't matter. Like, you could be having the best time of your life at a much advanced age. Oh my God, I'm making her sound like she is like Maggie Smith in Hook. Do
Oh
you know when
God.
she was like only 50, but Spielberg was like, let's make her like
97.
walking down the stairs as if she's like barely able to move.
Oh yeah, no, she's not that old.
No. But the person we're going to be talking about, Imelda Staunton, really
Oh.
does like come into her own, like in terms of filmography, within her 40s and 50s.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, she's done so much theatre, and we'll get into a little bit of background of her. But in her older years, she's got these like juicy parts in so many great films that we will get to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you love to talk about Imelda Staunton's juicy parts, but why specifically for this, your birthday episode, you had free reign. Why Imelda Staunton, Michael?
Good question. I love Imelda Staunton. She is like such a good actor. Like, I've seen
Oh,
her on
yes.
stage, obviously film, TV. She can really understand the assignment and fulfill her role, be it a one scene or a whole film or supporting character, or even like a voice work, as we'll talk about too.
Yeah.
The other reason, like, I've been so excited to talk about her for this podcast is because she is an example of exactly what we dream for or hope for a lot of the actors that we talk about or we hope to talk about. In that she's someone I've really loved as I was getting into film. So she was in films like Sense and Sensibility, Shakespeare in Love. I knew about her stage work. And then she works with Mike Leigh and makes Vera Drake, wins Best Actress at Venice Film Festival, gets nominated for the Oscar, then is cast in a Harry Potter film in a really quite significant part.
Yeah.
You know, like, her career grew so rapidly. The reason we're talking about her now is that that was kind of the height of it at the moment. Although, you know, totally believe she's going to be the next Judy and Maggie once Judy and Maggie no longer are working. But
Oh, sure.
you know, she's a perfect example of this kind of character actor who's not, say, a star, becoming celebrated and having doors opened for her. And I just feel like she's in the process of having more and more doors open. So now's a great time, being the Crown being released next year on Netflix, where she's playing Queen Elizabeth II in her later years for 2 series. Like, that surely is going to propel her even further.
It has to. It has to. I mean, the momentum behind that show is unparalleled at the moment. So, I mean, she's taken over the reins from the magnificent Olivia Colman, and the caliber of the cast is sensational, and it will continue to be sensational as she gets to play against Leslie Manville. It's very exciting, and not that I've ever really gotten into The Crown, but I think this is cause that I'm going to have to. I mean, how could I resist Well, I said that for Olivia Colman and Helena Bonham Carter, and I still did resist. But I think this one's going to be what tips it.
Yeah, and she's got Leslie Manville playing Princess Margaret. She's got Jonathan Pryce as Prince Philip. Yeah, so she's just going to continue to be kind of a household name, a celebrated dame. Somehow she's not a dame at
Weird.
the moment. She's an OBE, which I guess is a step towards damehood. I don't actually know. I don't know the structure. Can you just become a dame, or do you need the OBE? Is it like a game?
I don't believe you need the OBE, but I do imagine that surely the dame is in the future for her. I think that's a comfortable thing to say.
Maybe she's refusing it. Like she does, as we'll talk about. She's from Irish family. Maybe there's a part of her that's like, I don't know.
It all makes sense now.
I will say, just on that note, she was part of the St. Patrick's Day London celebration, which I absolutely loved. I was with someone who was like, "What is she doing on stage? She's clearly British." I was like, "No, she's Irish," and I'm claiming her for no reason. She was born, as we'll talk about, in North London in 1956. She's not Irish in a typical sort of way, and everything about her kind of feels British. She feels like one of those British people that could be, Eileen Atkins to Leslie Manville to Judi Dench,
Yes.
all those.
I mean, and specifically English, I would say. She does feel quintessentially like an English actress. That's her
For sure.
jam.
And so let's go then into a little bit about her. So she was born in North London in 1956. Her parents, as I will just say again in case people in the back did not hear me, were first generation Irish immigrants who came to England. They lived above her mother's salon. When she was in school, she used to do drama, really, really loved it. And it was her elocution teacher who encouraged her to apply for drama, to study drama. And she was refused in a few places, but she got into RADA, which is incredible to hear her talk about. It's like, well, I just thought that was never going to happen. If I got these rejections, but then to get into RADA at the age of 18, like that changed her life. She's like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but this was the path. She graduates from RADA and moves into the English rep system in theatre, which doesn't exist in the same way now, but you would have been able to be part of a company and play all these different parts, and she did that for 6 years, playing all sorts of roles, and then got her big break going to the National Theatre and did a run of shows there, which included The Beggar's Opera in 1982, for which she was Olivier Award nominated. For those who do not know, a Laurence Olivier Award is like the top prize you can get. It's like the Tonys of the West End. And her theatre career was and is huge. She had 13 Olivier nominations. And 4
Whoa,
wins.
13 and 4 wins. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Which is really high. I think like, again, as usual, maybe a fact, but Judi Dench is the only woman, I believe, to have more nominations and wins. And I've no doubt that Imelda will get more.
Oh, sure. At the rate
so
she's
yeah.
performing in the West End, yeah, I can imagine so.
So like from like the 80s to now, she's done everything from like Into the Woods, Sweeney Todd, Gypsy, Entertaining Mr. Sloan, Good People, Follies most recently she was nominated for, which was at the National Theatre. But yeah, and I guess it's a good place to point out that she is an incredible singer, which makes it even wilder she's not been in a film musical.
Absolutely.
But on stage, like Gypsy is a very, very tricky role, voice-wise, in so many ways, but
Yeah.
voice-wise, and she nailed it.
Honey, everything's coming up roses for me and for you.
I might have seen it, and this is a fact, 3 times.
Did you see it? Whoa. Oh, I was lucky to see it once, but not lucky enough to see it 3 times.
Oh, I loved it. And Gypsies, which maybe we'll get to talk about, but is on Netflix for those who are interested, and actually really well filmed. Some of those
Yeah.
stage shows not well captured, but that is wonderful to watch her in all her glory. And yeah, so film came a bit later. So her first film role is in 1986 with Comrades. Then her second film is Peter's Friends in 1992, which has all this kind of, I presume, pretty exciting group of British actors. You know, you've got Kenneth Branagh, who also directed it. You've got Stephen Fry. You've got Emma Thompson. You've got Hugh Laurie. And they're all, like, it's an ensemble film. And Imelda has quite a good part in it. She goes on then to do Much Ado About Nothing, again directed by Branagh, and Sense and Sensibility in 1995. And it's clear she's focusing much more on theatre at this point. But she does make very memorable appearances in things like Shakespeare in Love, Chicken Run. Then, only a few years into the new century, does she get to work with Mike Leigh, who is somebody she has openly talked about not wanting to work with. So Mike Leigh does a lot of improv, spends months beforehand preparing to shoot a film. We don't have enough time to go into great detail about it, but for those who are interested in like a very different approach to filmmaking, Mike Leigh is someone to really focus on. And Vera Drake, I can only imagine, is a pretty tough film or story to spend weeks in the midst of. So Vera Drake is the character Imelda Staunton plays, and it's a story about a family and also about abortion. So we'll get into detail about that, but it is also the film which propelled her into the Oscar race. So she's nominated for Best Actress. She's already won the Best Actress Award at Venice. It's celebrated. And you can only assume because of Vera Drake, she gets what happens next, which is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And she just becomes like a staple of cinema, like British cinema. She gets to work again, like with Ang Lee in Taking Woodstock. She turns up in like a horror-ish ghost story, The Awakening in 2011. She even gets her own like rom-com, A Woman of a Certain Age Discovering Herself and Finding Her Feet in 2017. Downton Abbey she joins when it goes to the big screen, to be kind of a nemesis to Maggie Smith. And she's also in the sequel, although Lord knows what they'll be asking her to do. She just has there are plenty of films to be talking about with Imelda, and it's all very exciting. Like we haven't even talked about Paddington or Paddington 2 or Pride in 2014. And even, like all of the, like I could talk and talk and talk about Imelda for days. And
Yeah.
that's not even like, let's have a pit stop for her TV role. So of course she has The Crown coming, but she has also done so much. So personal favorite for me would be Cranford, which is a really pleasant TV show with, again, like anyone, you name a British actor and they're probably in it, but herself and Judy, and like there's like a group of women that are friends, and they do things like get nervous about using candle wax because they don't have much and they just want to survive, or there's a new doctor in town and he's attractive, or a train's coming and it's a wild thing and they're scared what the train's going to do. Loads of things like that. It's really pleasant.
That sounds twee.
She's also like Emmy nominated for The Girl, which was all about Alfred Hitchcock. With she co-starred with Toby Stephens and Sienna Miller. Recently, Alan Bennett's Talking Heads redo. She was in that, and everything. I just give her all the roles. Like everything she's done, she has been terrific in, regardless of the end result of the film. But as we'll talk about too, she has like the quality of the project she's worked in is pretty high. Like I think that's higher than anyone else we've talked to in the 20 or so episodes that we've done so far on this podcast. Like there's so many just amazingly brilliant films.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was thinking the exact same thing in terms of who we've looked at so far, who we've talked about so far. And I agree, yeah, you're looking at what's there. There's a really high caliber of stuff and just things that you love to go back to. That's the thing. There's so much of these films are not just great for the sake of a one watch. They are ones that you want to go back to. She's chosen very, very well. Um, Considering how busy she is, I think there has to be a lot of choice in what she's doing, and I think she has a good sense for her choices.
Yeah, and she, unlike many of the other people we spoke about, she has had a huge moment. I guess when I think of, like, say, Nathan Lane and the Birdcage, like, that was a huge moment for him. In a similar way, Vera Drake really propelled Imelda Staunton. Um, but instead of, like, people making films for her, I feel like that kind of results in, say, Maleficent, getting paid, like, probably her mortgage or whatever. She's probably paid off her mortgage years ago. But, like, paying for getting a huge amount of money to just be one of the fairies, which doesn't have much
Yeah.
scope or creative. I mean, I
Mm.
imagine she'd openly say she's doing that for money.
Oh, yes.
She probably is, like, so. I hope she is very content with her career, and so are we. I guess what we're saying, we just want more of it and for it to continue and for it to grow.
Yes. Which I'm really optimistic in this case, especially with Imelda, that it will. It is going to. The crown aside, even I think she's so good, and I think anyone knows that. Anyone surely knows that. Anyone familiar with Imelda knows that she is top of her game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if when people ask me, like, who are my favorite actors or performers, Imelda will always be there. So, I mean, I'm totally biased.
Fair enough.
When's the first time you remember Imelda?
Oh, very good question. I guess it probably was Harry Potter 5. And even though that doesn't sound right, it will have been. Certainly the first time I was aware of her, because Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix comes out in 2010. So yeah, I would think that was probably the first time I really took note of her. I don't remember watching The Order of the Phoenix and going, "Oh, Imelda Staunton, I love her." I think it was the beginning of, "Who is this woman?" Because this is something else that's going on here. I mean, my gosh, the job here, and this is why it must have come off the back of Vera Drake, but even that is wild. But they must have just thought, she's so buoyant and terrific in the kind of beginnings of Vera Drake. We'll talk about that more later. But she, the Professor Umbridge, Dolores Umbridge, who she's playing in Harry Potter, is the ultimate villain of it all. And hey, sure, there's Voldemort, and we all know that Voldemort is literally the ultimate villain. But nobody is disliked as much in all of Harry Potter fandom than Umbridge, and that is definitely down to how she plays it. The character itself is written in such a way that she is dreadful and she's so easy to dislike. She's set up to be hated.
The Ministry of Magic has always considered the education of young witches and wizards to be of vital importance. Progress for the sake of progress must be discouraged. Let us preserve what must be preserved, perfect what can be perfected, and prune practices that ought to be prohibited.
Imelda just does this. It's incredible, and therefore I think it's one of the best performances in the whole series because she is making a character so hateful but so cutesy and buttoned up in her pink get-up, and it's so like this gentle woman, but you can just tell that she is the most dangerous character who's perhaps walked into that school 5 films, 5 books in. and there's been plenty before her, but she is the one where everyone is like, You need to watch out for this one." The balancing act she's doing is incredible. I think this is such an amazing performance, and I do think, as far as villains go, this is the best villain performance in Harry Potter because of the reaction it provoked from the fans. Who, I think, if you asked 100 fans, which character in Harry Potter do you dislike the most? They will 90% of them will say Umbridge.
Yeah, I think the reason she stands out so much, well, to someone like me, and I am not the biggest fan of Harry, or the most knowledgeable, I should say, of Harry Potter, is she is clutching at straws a little bit. So she doesn't have the full force of the Ministry of Magic, who have put her in Hogwarts School of Wizardry to basically keep an eye on them and keep things in check. She does have their support to a point, but she does behave even worse than they would want her to.
Yes.
Dumbledore, who is the headmaster, does contradict her quite often, as do children. And when they do, Imelda's perform like, this is why I'm like quite I just find it so interesting. She is like, it's not even like she's not getting her own way. She cannot accept anyone not following her. She wouldn't even see them as orders, I think, like, beliefs. Like, I know she's putting the rules up on the wall and all these sorts of things, but if you think of her, so she's trying to get rid of Emma Thompson, who, to be honest, sounds like an awful teacher from what I remember in the thing. She's like looking at teas,
Yes,
making
she
up
is not
shit.
the best. No.
It's not it's not what it's not probably what you don't want your wizard child to be doing. Anyway, I'm sure she's great in other ways, but Imelda's getting rid of her. Maggie Smith is trying to defend her, not getting far. And then Dumbledore's like, "You're coming back in here."
May I remind you that under the terms of Educational Decree number 23, as enacted by the Minister,
You have the right to dismiss my teachers. You do not, however, have the authority to banish them from the grounds. That power remains with the headmaster.
for now,
And Imelda, who is surrounded by all these kids watching, you know that this woman wants to burn the whole place down, but also can clock like, this is not what I need for the end result. And it plays out all that way, as if like she's playing this game, but it's not communicated. I know a lot in Harry Potter is very explicit, but what she's doing is not. And it very easily could have been her walking into a room, being angry, telling them to behave, being kind of more one-dimensional. But Imelda gets to like show all this kind of range in this one part, and it's a lot. Like, one of the reasons I guess I'm less satisfied than most people when it comes to Harry Potter is watching all these actors that I really love be given these parts, but really being sidelined. So if you think of someone like Maggie Smith, like, terrific, she gets a great part, but she gets moments. She doesn't really get any film, or it's a big ensemble.
Oh, yeah, I both agree and disagree. I mean, hey, I would always want more Maggie Smith, especially as McGonagall. But I think there's a real beauty in the amount that she's given, and I believe with other performers in Harry Potter, the Harry Potter films as well, that there is a beauty in it being enough and it working, even though, yeah, you want more. I want more Maggie Smith. I want more Alan Rickman, whoever it might be that you want more of.
Mm.
I think there's still tremendous. I think they did an amazing job with such an incredible ensemble where they did give a lot of people their dues where they shouldn't have. Emma Thompson's a good idea, I think, more to what you're saying of getting moments, but them being very, very small in the grand scheme of the whole
Or
eight
even in
film
this
series.
movie, it's like he sees Julie Walters, and then Julie Walters, all she does is introduce Harry to her children, and you're like,
Yes, sure.
why do I need to spend time with these questionably talented children, instead of Julie Walters?
Oh,
That is my
I
so,
get that.
so so that's where, and I will say this film in particular, Maggie does have great moments in it, and Dumbledore and Snape all have good moments. There's a really terrific bit, particularly with Imelda and Snape.
you applied first for the Defense Against the Dark Arts post, is that correct?
Yes.
But you were unsuccessful?
Obviously.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good moment.
And you can tell she's having a great time as well. Um, And I think obviously it helps that we know Imelda Staunton is not this awful sort of, say, someone like Margaret Thatcher clutching onto these feminine sort of aesthetics, but with this evil intent.
Yeah, and on that, Imelda has been very good at crediting the costume designer for this film, who she worked very closely with, and David Yates, the director, and her. This was both of their first film in the Harry Potter series, and they wanted to make her extremely serious and threatening without what they called any fireworks. So that's where the costume designer comes in. They get this pink, fluffy outfit, and everything is pink to give her that motherly, soft edge, but on the inside it is terrifyingly dangerous. So she didn't want the visual help of a costume being like, I'm threatening, I'm evil. They wanted to completely soften it down. So she was then playing the opposite, which is what makes it incredibly rich.
Yeah, no, it's really great. I Out of all the Harry Potters, if there was one to have been like BAFTA nominated and all this sort of stuff, it I would have put my money on Imelda as Umbridge. I just think she's that good in the film, and there are plenty of really good people, as you say, like Kenneth Branagh's part in the second one, Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange, Ray Fiennes as Voldemort himself. Even if it's a bit, I would argue that character is more one-dimensional than Umbridge.
Oh, completely.
It's so interesting, and Snape, of course.
Yeah, but then that goes back to what you were saying about, yeah, a lot of these performers have the kind of like consistent in and out, in and out, in and out through all of the films, whereas she turns up and it is whack. So it to me it makes the most sense of anyone in the whole series. If one of them was to get nominated for awards, and BAFTA, yeah, is the go-to here. Yeah, I would agree. It would be this performance.
I'm trying to think. Like the first time I would have known or seen her was Sense Sensibility,
Oh, nice one.
and but I would have watched Sense Sensibility quite close to say Shakespeare in Love and Much Ado About Nothing. And she's playing kind of a similar part in all of them. I would like it's very supporting in Sense Sensibility. She's like this giggly relative who is meddling in the lives of the main characters, which are the Dashwood sisters that find themselves kind of financially in trouble because their father has passed away.
My mother has talked of nothing else in her letters since you came to Barton, Mrs. Bashwood. Mr. Palmer, are they not the very creatures she describes?
Nothing like.
Oh, Mr. Palmer, do you know you are quite rude today?
And she's such a hoot in a film with loads of great performances. And again, in Shakespeare in Love, oh, she's like, which is basically an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. She's playing Juliet's nurse. She is such a fan of love. Like she just wants them to be able to explore love, but also understands the rules of the game that Gwyneth Paltrow's character won't be able to fall in love with Joseph Fiennes' Shakespeare, and also that Gwyneth Paltrow in the film is performing on a stage in a world where women are not allowed, and Imelda also knows that that can't last for long either, but wants her to have the joy, like youthful joy that you get when you fall in love and you find all these passions.
I would stay asleep my whole life if I could dream myself into a company of players.
Clean your teeth while you dream, then.
It's really lovely. And I always remember, so Joseph and Gwyneth are, having a great old time. And, the servants in the house are coming to and fro.
Yes, they are.
And when the bed is rocking, Imelda's on her rocking chair, acting as if it's her making the noise.
Oh, it's such a good moment. It's such a good moment in that film.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just terrific. Like, I would just love her, and I said the films and stage. Like, I remember when I moved to London, and I was so excited when I realized I could go see this play with Imelda. It was called A Delicate Balance at the Almeida Theatre, which is not a production I absolutely love, but she was so good. There's one bit she plays this kind of drunk sister, and she balances, I think it's a brandy on her nose, and I was mesmerized by
course.
her, and thankfully then got to see her be Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, and
Me too. Still my favorite.
all these great parts. So yeah, I mean, I then again, I guess like the biggest part, and this is as I was getting really into movies with Vera Drake. Vera Drake is an exceptional film, I think, for so many reasons. And as I described earlier, Mike Leigh is a pretty kind of singular sort of filmmaker. That word seems to be used an awful lot, but in this case, it is so appropriate because there's nobody else works quite like him. And it's a story of a woman, Vera Drake. She's happily married, has 2 children, and they're working class. And she does lots of, housework and looks after people, and we see all that. And then she is also an abortionist at a time in England where it was illegal to have abortions, unless, as we see in the film, with another character played by Sally Hawkins, you go through quite an official process where you have or claim to have, mental health issues, and have money, quite a bit of money, to pay for it. But Imelda helps girls out, is how she words it.
Yeah.
And through the story, there's a complication with one of the abortions she does, and she basically is discovered to be doing these backstreet abortions. The police come, take her away, to the shock of her family. And that is the story in a nutshell. There also is a brother-in-law who is worked his way to be middle class, which we also saw in another Mike Leigh that we talked about recently, Secrets and Lies. And this man's wife is very, very like new money sort of attitude towards everything. She wants a new washing machine, so she'll come in and talk about that when Vera and her family can barely kind of scrape together money for food, kind of. So there's a few things going on. And yeah, like that, for lots of reasons, it's a striking film. I mean, in 2004, like I would have seen this in Dublin, so a country where abortion was then and until recently was illegal, and it still has a lot of stigma. So it had an even bigger impact on the audiences that would have watched it there. This film is set in the post-war, is it?
It's 1950s.
And I just don't know, like the film is not, it doesn't land in terms, it's not forcing anybody to have a strong opinion about whether or not you should be pro-life, anti-abortion, all these sorts of things. I mean, I think it would be hard to watch it and to think that it would be a good thing to make abortions illegal. But it's much more about a family and about love and about respect. Because you see Imelda Staunton's Vera Drake just goes around and supports everybody. Like she keeps everybody afloat. She has, and it's not just even with what she does, it's her attitude. She like sees somebody played by Eddie Marzane on the stairs who is lonely.
Hello, Reg.
Afternoon, Mrs. Drake.
You all right, dear?
Can't complain.
Going off for your tea?
Yes.
What you having?
Bit of bread and dripping.
That all?
Cup of tea.
Oh, look after yourself, Reg. I told you want to come over our house for your tea one night.
Don't want to put you out.
Oh, to be daft. What about tomorrow? You can come over after work, you know where we are, number 82. Could feed you up a bit. Do you fancy that?
You sure?
Be no trouble, Reg.
Go on then.
Oh, lovely.
And she's
See you
like,
tomorrow.
come on over. And then she sees a spark of something between him and her daughter. And she doesn't even fan the flame. She just kind of facilitates them if they want to be together. She takes any kind of negativity and turns it around. So it's pretty heartbreaking when the party at her house is interrupted for the engagement of her daughter and this neighbor to basically take her away and take off her wedding ring and to have her stand trial, and then for her to find out that she was doing the abortions for free, but the person that was arranging it was taking all this money.
You do it for nothing?
Of course I do. I need help.
Do you know a Mrs. Lillian Clark?
Yes.
How long have you known her?
I think it's since we was kids.
She puts young girls in touch with you, doesn't she?
Sometimes.
Did she put you in touch with Pamela Barnes? Did you know Lillian Clark was paid 2 guineas by Pamela's mother?
No.
She never gives you any money?
No.
You telling me the truth?
Yes, I am.
Like, you just have all these like heartbreaking things,
Yeah.
but it's really about how her husband, and in a much more complicated way, her daughter and particularly her son, support her.
Yeah, it's this film is incredible. Is the first thing I'll say about it. And this is like second time I watched it. I'd watched it before, thought it was brilliant, but was like, I probably can't come back to this film. However, I was so glad I did, because I guess with the weight of the second half, you can forget how luminous Imelda is in the first half, and it is full of love and full of warmth. The film and her character, but specifically because of her performance and the character she's playing, and she's doing these abortions for women because she's helping them out, and it's so clear to us as the audience, or I assume it should be, that she's doing the right thing, and she's doing it out of the kindness of her heart. She approaches both how she is with her family in this film, and will do anything for them with this tireless kindness, and that's the same person you see performing these abortions. She doesn't come in, she doesn't pretend it's a bleak thing. She's not kind of giving them undue sympathy and stuff. She's just being like as cheery and positive and upbeat as she can, does her thing, very supportive, very encouraging. She explains the next steps and she leaves. And it's amazing. It's just this the radiance that she brings is unlike anything else perhaps on screen in a film of this nature, especially. It's unbelievable. And then for her to be that person in the first half of the film and to transition into the second half and to be playing a very hollowed out person, it's two wildly different performances, but clearly the same person. And it's coming from a place of those two being so specifically linked. She's not a defiant character. She's not doing what she's doing as a point of defiance. It's not a political maneuver, it's kindness. And it's that those two things, the good person, the luminous person I should say, sorry, and then this broken person, it's because of that. It's because of realizing it, she never thought about it. It was just second nature to her that she would do this. She's kind.
And the beauty of all of that, well, exactly what you're saying, is there's a knock on the door. The police arrive. The husband answers the door. The focus of the camera is Imelda Staunton as she clocks is the police. Her performance basically informs you. She may not have really thought through what, like, it's illegal, what happens there,
Yeah.
but this character is not stupid either. She knows why they're there. She understands what will happen next. She understands the impact that'll have on her family, and that's all communicated through her face, which goes from this pure joy of celebrating to, as you're saying, like kind of a like hollowness. Like it's as if like everything is drained from her. It is exceptional. Like, to me, that is one of the best performances ever on screen. I can't think of many that I would like. I can think of loads that compare to it, maybe, but nothing I would say would be better. I think
Yeah.
that's as good as you get. So yeah, but I mean, it is amazing, and like then she goes on and does things like Freedom Riders with Hilary Swank, who better at the Oscar,
Yeah.
and she gets a Harry Potter. She's in, Maleficent. She's really propelled, so it's really exciting. It's a really exciting time for her. So yeah, she loses the Oscar to Hilary Swank for $1 Million Baby, a very emotional, sentimental film. I can imagine much easier to watch than Vera Drake. So maybe I don't blame voters so much. But Hillary had an Oscar already for Boys Don't Cry, and you know, I mean, it's not no surprise I would be voting for Vera. Drake. But yeah, she just keeps going. I mean, do we want to touch upon the next Mike Lee film she did, Another Year? So she is owning Another Year is a story spread over 4 months, and 4 seasons, and she kind of sets the tone. So the real story is about this couple, Tom and Jerry, played by Jim Broadbent and Rusheen, who also have a friend played by Leslie Manville, who is, well, I don't know if this is ever confirmed, but she appears to be an alcoholic. She has quite a lot of issues, mental health issues. It seems she's quite broken as a person.
Yeah.
Um, but at the very start, so Rusheen works in a. I think she's not. Is she a counselor or
Yeah,
is it
she's
just
a
a
counselor.
GP?
Yeah.
Yeah, who is talking to Imelda.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy would you say you are, Janet?
1.
1. I think there's room for improvement there, don't you?
Like we talk about, say, Vera Drake being a hollow of a person. In comparison to this character, Vera Drake is kind of the life and soul of the party at the end of
Yeah.
in the second half. This person is nothing. Like you have, and you see a whole like wealth of a life in what she's saying, and it really sets up the whole film to be like, you know what, life is not easy for everybody, and you have to work hard, not just for yourself, but with those near you. And if you don't, then Imelda's what happens if communication breaks down, if your support system is sleeping pills rather than, or alcohol when it comes to Leslie Manville, rather than, say, the love of your family or support of your friends and all this sort of thing. It's tough. Like that, those 5 minutes, I remember watching in the cinema and being like, "Oh my lord!" But the rest of the film is much lighter in comparison. Like
Yeah.
it's not that it's light, but it's more. There's more space for it to have different
Yes.
tones.
Yeah, no, it is. It has this airiness. It does have lightness because Ruth Sheen and Jim Broadbent in it are very lovely characters who, by all accounts, have a really lovely life. He's got a great job. She's a counselor. They have a great thing going on, and they have a lot of people around them who are definitely not in the position they're in. You mentioned Leslie Manville, who is incredible in this film as well. But yeah, the film after Imelda sequence is far more easygoing, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, that moment's it's so impactful. Like, God, she's just incredibly talented to do that. To be able to hollow yourself out that much, you really don't see many performers who can do that. The only other one I can really think of at the top of my head is like Olivia Colman. I've seen her do similar, where she has played really moments of being hollowed out by a situation, and that's what you're seeing in these opening 5 minutes of Another Year. But like you're saying, the difference between this and Vera Drake, both Mike Leigh films, but her performance is they're miles apart. The breadth of her talent is sublime. It is incredible. It's a very powerful film. Another Year is a oh gosh, Mike Leigh. We could talk about him all day, but he's got many great ones, and this is one of them. It's a great film.
And I mean, I don't know if there's anything you want to touch upon in any of the like Maleficence or Alice in Wonderlands or all those sorts of things that she's done, or even Taking Woodstock. But the film that I'm like so excited to talk about is Pride, which is a film directed by Matthew Warchus. It's based on a true story, where a group called Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners do exactly what they say on the tin. They support this mining community in Wales. It's focused on, well, this kind it's a real ensemble, but I guess the main like thrust of the story is a person called Mark Ashton, again a real person, and in the mining town is Imelda Staunton, and
Woohoo!
she's headed the committee. Is that's my Welsh accent?
Oh my god! Don't ever do that again.
There's a lot of, they say the word committee so often in this film, because anyway, but she's part of the committee alongside Bill Nighy, this woman whose name I meant to get, but I've just written down, most evil person in the world, who is so homophobic and so evil. Like, there's no dimension to this character. She is evil. She has two sons that are evil. Anyway, she's a part of this committee, and as is Jessica Gunning, who is an actor I absolutely love and is terrific in this film. Anyway, they all come, and it's basically the story of two communities coming together and supporting each other in a kind of Thatcher era of Great Britain or of Britain, and it's like heartbreaking and wonderful and heartfelt, and there's all these different stories that are weaved into it. So you have George Mackay, who is doing this coming of age story. So he's discovering his sexuality, and there's a whole storyline with his family. But I am more than pleased to focus on the element which is Imelda Staunton. She is terrific. So she gets a BAFTA nomination for this part, deservedly. Should have been a bigger contender in terms of awards, the whole film, but her in particular. She's wonderful. Like it's not a perfect film. There's like a few bits and bobs that I would definitely be like, oh well, structurally maybe change this, whatnot. But it's just such joy. Like it's such a wonderful film to sit down and watch, and so caring and entertaining and moving and enjoyable. Like basically, it's like a whirlwind of emotions.
Oh, completely. I agree with what you're saying. It's not a perfect film, but for me, to reduce it down to boring numbers, it is a 5-star film because on an emotional level, it just works so much. I howl with laughter, I sob and cry. It just does it all. I love this film so much. It's one of my favorite films. It's a film I will always recommend to people, and they always receive that recommendation. Um, with real gratitude to have watched it. It's such a joy. And Imelda is brilliant in it. And what is brilliant about her, because this is a comedy turn from Imelda, of which we have had a few, but the brilliant thing about her, where she can go broad, and in this part she's going fairly broad, but she knows where the line is and she brings way more nuance and character to it.
I tell you something right now, Maureen Barry. If you get AIDS, so help me God, I'll nurse you myself. Now, how are you going to get AIDS from a couple of sleeping bags in your extension? I don't know.
So there's real moments of fire in fight. Who's not prepared to take any shit, she quickly will cut it down, and does it so brilliantly and in such a funny way when we see it happening. But also there's really, really tender, beautiful moments in it where she is identifying with these people that otherwise she may not have thought to before, her character. But there's a moment where she speaks Welsh to Andrew Scott on the phone at Christmas. She's trying to contact Dominic West's character because they've had this amazing dance sequence. They've bonded during their time in Wales, and she's giving him a ring, and his partner, played by Andrew Scott, picks up.
Is that a Welsh accent I can hear?
Maybe. The remnants. I haven't been home in a long time, so...
Well, wish Jonathan a happy Christmas from all of us in Delice, will you?
Of course I will.
Nadolig llawn to you, my love.
Nadolig llawn.
There's quite a few bits like that. There's a scene between her and Bill Nighy, which is also very touching towards the back end of the film. I won't spoil what goes on there, but it's a beautiful scene as well. But the funny moments are so great. It's so good. My whole heart is there for this film. I love it with capital Love. Love, 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 love.
Yeah. I mean, it's surprising to me that it's not a bigger film culturally, but I guess it's taking two communities that, on the face of it, are very different, and it's a hard film to market. The title also confusing.
Maybe.
So there's things where I understand why it doesn't quite land in a huge way. But no, I've no doubt that in years to come it will just like keep earning audiences.
I think so. I think it's just so accessible. I think everything you're saying is correct, but I think that's what surprises people is when I recommend it to people and they watch it, they're like, wait, how? Why did I not hear about this? Why do I not know about this film? Like, it just feels like the best of British, like accessible, fun, heartwarming like cinema, like a Billy Elliot or things like that. It's not a million miles away from that type of filmmaking, and it's so effective. It's so effective.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is where I go. I'm not as sold on you because I think it's pulling strings which are well worn
Yeah.
and have been used better in other places, but it is really effective. You also get to see Imelda Staunton and her chums go to London and play with dildos,
It's a great
hang out
time.
in gay bars. It's really
Yeah.
terrific. So no, it is. It's really fun, and she is so good in it. And before we like move on to do the quiz and such like that, there is one film which is the film I would recommend people watch. I think, where if she is most definitely the heart of it, which is Paddington 2. Of course, she's in Paddington 1 as well, and she is very important in it. But she's not like Paddington 2. The structure of the story is Paddington, who lives in London, wants to get Aunt Lucy a present for her birthday. Appropriate, this is my birthday episode. And she wanted to visit London, but she couldn't. Because in the first film, she's basically too old to go with Paddington, is what she said. She's in the home for retired bears. So instead of coming to London, he wants this pop-up book. And so does Hugh Grant, because Hugh Grant is a dastardly actor, out of work actor, and he knows of the secret story to find money hidden in an organ, and it's all the clues are in this pop-up book. Anyway, so there's all this kind of chasing and all this sort of stuff, but in the heart of it, it's Aunt Lucy, and he brings up, as he does in the first as well, Aunt Lucy a lot. It's like Aunt Lucy says, "Be nice and be kind and be this," and through Aunt Lucy's teaching of all of this to Paddington, he's passing that on. So even though Imelda is like very brief in this film, her character and what she portrayed through her voice work is so it is informing everything that we're watching.
Yeah.
You see, Aunt Lucy did so much for me when I was a cub. Without her, I'd never have come to London. And I suppose all I ever really wanted was to make her proud.
I just cry. I just cry and cry and cry. I won't spoil the ending, but Aunt Lucy in some form gets a present from Paddington, and it is glorious. There are very few films which I could watch again and again, knowing something, whatever the resolution will be, and will feel exactly the same way as I did that first time. It is like
Yeah.
pure joy. So it's like ecstasy, like to watch this happen and unfold. So she's terrific as Aunt Lucy, in probably what, 3 minutes or 4 minutes of screen time, or well, not even screen time, voice time. It's just so
Yeah.
wonderful.
It is wonderful. She's an incredibly gifted voice actress too. It works so well. The warmth that she brings to this character is, oh gosh, and you feel it in spades and spades and spades, and that's why it's also affecting when it gets to these moments which are as beautiful as you suggest they are. Oh, it's what they've done with these Paddington films is incredible, but yeah, she's bringing a lot to that second one and gives it that emotional wallop, but in the best, in the nicest way, not in a dark or miserable way. A lovely, lovely way. It's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff.
But she can do anything, and there's so many, like, when we
Yeah.
talk about preparing for this film, there's so many films which we haven't even touched upon, which I'm, like, so delighted to see her in Downton Abbey facing off Maggie Smith as,
Yeah.
like, this new nemesis that turns up in the house. Even in things like The Awakening, which I'm not a huge fan of, she's very good in it, and
Yeah.
she, again, brings this kind of wallop, as you say, to the story. Yeah, just love her. We'll watch her in anything. We'll watch her on stage, TV,
Absolutely.
whatever. Sign
Oh,
me up.
yes, me too.
And if you have a problem with Imelda Staunton, stop listening. We don't need your support.
Goodbye, you grot bags.
Yeah, it's like, what is your birthday wish? If anyone doesn't like Imelda Staunton, just don't talk to me. Just disappear. No, jokes. Everyone entitled to their opinion. He said after what? I've got rid of pro-life. I've got rid of anti-Imelda. I've probably got rid of anyone that didn't like gays or Welsh people. I've just getting rid of everyone.
Oh me, oh my. Oh, but hey, it's your birthday, and you can do what you want.
Exactly. So yeah, okay. Well, now it's time for me to be quizzed.
Absolutely. Speaking of birthday treats, here comes the best of them all, the quiz of the episode. It's only right that I let you decide what your prize present will be if you are successful in answering every single one of these questions correctly.
This is easy. So just before COVID, Imelda Staunton was due to do Hello Dolly in the West End. That has, I mean, they're saying after The Crown and stuff it will happen, but I want to see it now. I want it to be somehow fully rehearsed, fully staged, fully everything, and just to be on for my birthday. I'd love it. Of course, with the consent of everyone. I don't want to force anyone, but to see Imelda go from the staircase singing, and here's Dolly, here I am, I'm back. I'd love it. I'd love it.
Oh, well, that's a perfect idea, and one I'm sure is very easy for us to make happen. Right, so I've got a series of films, and in each case, Imelda has performed alongside in that film Oscar nominees or winners. And I want you in each
Great.
case to tell me all of the Oscar nominees / winners in each of these films. So we're going to start off with a film where there is one, and that is Chicken Run.
Mel Gibson for Best Director for
Sorry,
Braveheart.
what I should say
Oh, sorry.
is all of these are performance nominees.
The people that jump out to me for who is in Chicken Run are not Oscar nominees, sadly. Like Jane Horrocks, or who else is in it? I want to say someone like Bill Nighy or Timothy Spall, but I don't think I mean, they're not Oscar nominees either. So I don't actually know. Is it? I'm going to go with a Redgrave, seeing as I've already mentioned them with Christian.
It's not a Redgrave. In this case, and this will hopefully help you, it is the villain of the piece.
Yeah, you see, I know, but I just can't. I'm picturing them as a Vanessa Redgrave for some reason.
Oh,
That's why.
okay, right, okay. No, so it's Mrs. Tweedy as the character, is voiced by Miranda Richardson, two-time
Oh my
Oscar
god!
nominee
Oh my
Miranda
god! I was
Richardson.
so close. That was so close. I literally said her
You
surname.
you did say a Richardson, but not
I
the
love
right
it.
Richardson dynasty.
Oh my god! I love how close I was.
So close. So it's almost like we can give you that one. They could be related. Maybe they are related, and I don't know it. Okay, now we have a film with two nominees in it besides Imelda, and this is Downton Abbey.
So I want you to do the voice. But I can't because I couldn't do the Welsh thing. Elizabeth McGovern. I can't do it. But Elizabeth McGovern, because she was nominated for. Oh my god, what was the film? That's going to really tick me
Ragtime,
off.
isn't it?
Yeah, Ragtime, and then obviously Maggie Smith.
You got it. That's
For lots,
two.
for anything. Well, she's won twice. She has loads of nominations. She's terrific.
So yeah, Elizabeth McGovern. Michael really likes my impression of Elizabeth McGovern in Downton Abbey. Oh, Robert. And and Maggie Smith, the all-time great. Okay, next up, three performers here. Sense and Sensibility.
Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet. I'm gonna have to think of the other one. It's really strange, isn't it, that like all these people should be Oscar nominee. Like a lot of them, like Alan Rickman should be an Oscar nominee.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant should be an Oscar nominee for Paddington 2.
Yeah.
Tom Wilkinson, who dies within like a minute.
You got it, Tom Wilkinson. Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet. Well done. Next up, one with 4 performers in it. This is Much Ado About Nothing. Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing.
So Kenneth Branagh, Emma Thompson, Denzel Washington, and Michael Keaton.
You got it. There's your 4. Smashed it.
And just to flag, Much Ado About Nothing, that adaptation is terrific, and I really recommend it. I absolutely love it. It is like going on a holiday. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but it's really super. And what a cast!
Yeah, hopefully one will come back to, because I've never seen it and I really want to. But in this case, you told me that Imelda wasn't as present as we'd like, so we decided that maybe time best.
She does create a bit of a stir in it, let's say, but yeah, she's not Beatrix. She's not the lead.
Fair. Okay, Next up, we have a film with 5 performances in it. This is Shakespeare in Love.
Jeffrey Rush,
Jeffrey Rush,
Judi Dench,
Judi Dench,
Gwynnie,
Gwyneth Paltrow,
Tom Wilkinson again.
Tom
And actually,
Wilkinson
I love Tom
again.
Wilkinson in this film. I love him so much in it. Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck is not nominated for performing.
He's another one of those that I'm like, how is he? So he has been nominated for one, or he's won for producing and for writing, but never been nominated for acting.
Exactly.
Grand. So, sorry, how many do I have left?
So you've got one left to get. So so far you've got Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeffrey Rush, Judi Dench, and Tom Wilkinson. We've got one more.
I feel like this is a trick. Like there's going to be someone that pops up, and even though I just watched it, I'm going, no. Then who am I forgetting? That's in Shakespeare in Love.
So if she's Shakespeare in Love, she's someone else not in love.
Oh my God, Colin Firth, because he's playing such a like against type sort of person. And he's literally in it with this weird like goatee thing, and I'm just like, that's so funny that I forgot who that he's in the movie.
There we go. Absolutely.
Oh my
Colin
God.
Firth.
He's there
Brilliant.
from the off. Oh my Lord. Okay, sorry, Colin, dear friend.
You're doing fabulous. And then also one with 6 performances. This is Bright Young Things, which we had the joy of watching for Harriet Walter, who's sadly not one of these 6 names.
And I'm gonna open like this is openly say even that I'm a bad podcaster. I did not rewatch Bright Young Things. So we've got James McAvoy's not an Oscar nominee, is he? Or is he? Did he get nominated? He didn't get nominated for Atonement, so no, he's not.
He's
not
also not in this film.
Is he? He is in it.
Is he?
He's
I can't even remember.
Who is the quizmaster here?
Oh God, I thought this film was like tripe, so I can't remember it.
So Miranda Richardson, is she in it again? I think she is.
No.
Oh my God! No.
So you're all right about McAvoy, yes. McAvoy's in it, but he is not nominated for acting at the Oscars.
So Jim Broadbent is in it, right?
Jim Broadbent, yeah.
This is literally, I could be mentioning anybody. Oh my Lord. Who else? Stockard Channing is in it.
Stockard Channing.
Honestly, Brenda Blethyn? Is Brenda Blethyn in it? Like
she is not in it, but fair enough.
Leslie Manville?
Leslie's not in it either.
Honestly, I think I'll give up because I'll be just listing people I like, but to be honest, when I think of that, I think of Fenella Woolgar, James McAvoy, the Scottish guy that plays Doctor Who I think gives a bad performance in it. That's why I remember him.
He's horrible in it. David
and
Tennant.
Harriet Walter, Stockard Channing, and Imelda. I honestly couldn't tell you much more about this film. Emily Mortimer, but she's not.
Emily, yeah, no, exactly. She's not either. So we've got one of the Blues Brothers.
John Goodman.
Well, he's not one of the Blues Brothers.
But is he in the movie?
I don't know. I can't remember him.
No, never mind. He's also not an Oscar nominee, so I don't know why. I'm just
I know he might. Is he not? Oh, that's weird. Okay, so
I think he might be in it.
We've got Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, that's who I meant when I said John Goodman. Okay. That is literally who I was picturing. Men, they looked exactly the same to me. Which one was in? Whoever was in My Girl is what I should have said. That's Dan Aykroyd,
probably
right?
Yeah. That's probably Dan. Okay, and then we've got Lawrence of Arabia.
Peter O'Toole's in that movie.
Peter
Fuck
O'Toole
me.
Was in this film. Then we have
literal
got...
fuck me.
Happy birthday.
No, but back in Lawrence of Arabia days, not
from Beyond the Grave. Yummy. One of your favorite recent Best Supporting Actor nominees in a film that you're a big fan of.
Oh, Richard E. Grant. Oh my God. I love him.
And then finally, star of Great Expectations, Swiss Family Robinson, Oscar winner for Ryan's Daughter for Best Actor in a Supporting Role in 1970.
Oh, John Mills.
John Mills. There you go. So that was Imelda alongside Best Acting Oscar winners and nominees. All right. So next round, and I decided on this because I find it strange that we hadn't landed here yet. So what I've done is I've picked 5 Imelda films, and I've chosen a score from each of those films. So you're going
Oh,
to get to hear a
oh
clip
no!
of the score, and I just need the name of the film. If you happen to know the composer for extra bonus points, great. But I think the composers here are particularly tricky. But if you can get the films, then amazing.
Oh my god! For whatever reason, I mean, music anyway is very emotive for myself. But rewatching like Vera Drake, the music starting got me. I was like teary. Paddington, I swear, like there was a piece of music in particular when they have an imaginary bit where they visit London, crying. I was crying with my boyfriend. Obviously he's seen me cry in movies before, but he's never seen me like actively like shake as I was towards the end of Paddington 2, because I was trying my best to not cry as much as I knew I was about to, which was resulting in me like juttering. And he hadn't seen the film before, so I think he thought Aunt Lucy was going to be found like dead on the road or something.
Oh, thank
Anyway.
heaven she wasn't. Hopefully,
so yes, I love it. I'm so
we
excited.
get that.
Bring it on.
Hopefully, we get that response just now. I want a few tears here. So here we have the first clip.
So not only have you've I can tell you've chosen the most emotional parts of the film scores too. So this makes me so like sad and happy because this is from Sense and Sensibility, and if I'm wrong, it's towards the end where they're about like, are they getting married, and it's like they found love, and like basically these characters are going to be okay. And it's really irritating me because I love that score that I can't remember the British man who did the music. But he's very underrated. And that's really annoying me that I can't remember his name.
Well, what's very important is that he's actually a Scottish film composer of Irish heritage. So it's Patrick Doyle.
Yes, he's so good. And yeah, so this just fills me with joy. This it kind of gets to me the most like in love or romanticized or whatever I've ever been. This music makes me feel that. I love it.
Oh, good. Well, we're off to a great start. Here is the next clip.
That is Chicken Run.
You are correct. That is Chicken Run. And that's one of my favourite scores. I think it's a delicious score. I love it so much. It's obviously playing on, it's film references, The Great Escape, all of these things. But it's so well done. It's so much fun. It's such a good ride.
But that's what the whole film, and again, we didn't get to talk about Chicken Run, but it's like, it's setting up all those movies which are dealing with, I guess, much more important context, but also is like playful, but it then also has the depth to be able to reach into those sorts of emotional triggers of like, we are a community and we want to survive. And yeah, I really enjoy it.
I love it. It's one of my favorite animated films. I think Chicken Run is a great time. So
it's animated. I thought they transformed.
I always thought that chickens looked really rubbery in real life.
Well, do you know what? Now, I mean, we haven't even mentioned cats yet, which is a shame. We should mention cats at least once an episode. But imagine redoing Chicken Run, but with the technology for cats.
Oh God! Or the other way around, having Aardman do cats with plastic.
Yeah, well, don't get me started. Why they didn't do that? I mean, I don't think there's ever in the world any version of Cats a great, amazing movie. but it would have
No,
been
that could have
better if it
been.
was animated.
That could have been with those at the helm. That could have been a good one.
We wouldn't have had to watch Judi Dench skin another cat to wear her fur as a coat. We'd be saved that at least.
Oh, fun. All right, let's take on another.
Is that her? It's Dolores Umbridge's theme from Harry Potter, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
bang on. Yes, that's why I specifically chose that one. So that is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And that piece is Professor Umbridge. That is her theme. So I
Yeah.
couldn't not have it. And what a theme. It works so well. Even just hearing that, you're like, I can see her. I can feel her coming. It makes sense. It's so well done. And the composer of this is Nicholas Hooper. And I should also say Chicken Run, forgot to mention it, Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell on Chicken Run. Okie dokie. And the final of our clips.
That is, of course, Shakespeare in Love. And is it like Stephen Warbeck, or is
It
that
is
the
Stephen
name of the
Warbeck. Well
composer? Yeah.
done. Yes. So only 2 of these 5 were Oscar nominated, this being one of them, alongside Patrick Doyle's Sense and Sensibility score. Well done. You did very, very well there. You smashed that out of the park. So, you know what, Michael? Your wish is my command. All of the birthday treats that you could have ever dreamed. Hello, Dolly, coming back to a stage for you to enjoy.
Back where she belongs. They're the lyrics.
Sorry, missed that one.
Sorry. Well, I think Hello Dolly is it's a niche musical theatre show for musical theatre people, I'd say. But you know what? I would have thought Gypsy, and Gypsy had a huge legs. Huge legs.
Unlike Imelda Staunton.
Yeah, well, for a small performer, like, whoa, how the hell does that person of that short stature like she's alone on the stage and she's telling you,
starting now is gonna be my turn. Gangway world, get off of my runway. Starting now, I bat 1,000. This time, boys, I'm taking the bows, and everything's coming up. Girls, everything's coming up roses.
It's amazing. Oh, I love that track as well.
Okay, well now this is very exciting. I feel like there's lots of ways we could go with Imelda in terms of looking at what we want for her. And what do you have first up?
So first up, to go and touch on a very obvious point that we had touched upon earlier, is that she is perhaps the most renowned at the moment performer of musical theatre on the London stage. Yet she has never been in a film musical. It's absolutely absurd. However, I don't know which one should be in. It would be maybe too obvious to go back to what we discussed in our last episode on Christine Baranski and thinking of a Sondheim musical that could be put to film, because again, Imelda has done many, many, many of them. We've already discussed a few that we've both seen. Gypsy. He was the lyricist on Follies, Sweeney Todd.
She's quite open about wanting to have played Mrs. Lovett on screen. And I can only imagine for someone like Imelda to watch someone like a Helena Bonham Carter, whose voice is just not capable to do the things that are written inherently in that song, in those songs, and that story, must be pretty frustrating. Imelda as Mrs. Lovett would have had the heart, and she would have been perfect on screen as well as perfect as she is on stage, as this kind of hardened woman that still has a hope for life. But anyway, she didn't get that part, and they're not going to remake Sweeney Todd now.
Well, I mean, I would have another one. Directed by who? I don't know. Who should do it?
Me. It's my birthday, and I'll say me.
Perfect.
No,
Directed by Michael
Inherit.
Pearce.
Who would I think would do a good version of it? I mean, I know this is never going to happen, but I'd love like a sensual sort of filmmaker, and because I'm obsessed with Power of the Dog, why not like someone like Jane Campion, who
Oh,
also did period
sure.
pieces. I'd no idea who, but you could cast anyone as Sweeney Todd, and as long as they can sing and don't look like they're dead already, like Johnny Depp does in that movie. Like you could have, so because he doesn't have to be a certain age, he could be much younger, and Imelda's Mrs. Lover could still want to be with him.
Yeah.
But anyway, I can't think of someone off the top of my head.
Yeah.
You're like, and that's it. Well, do you know what? So this is really bad, and I really hope the person that talked to me about this is not listening, because I've forgotten about them. But it's either a friend of mine, Susie, or the boyfriend said, like, was asking me about it and was mentioning about like Disney remakes and things like that. And then together we thought, like, what film could be remade and Imelda would be perfect in would be Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Now, it's one of my all-time favorite Disney like I watched that at the same time as like Mary Poppins and all those, and I in my mind saw no difference between them. That it's like critically less celebrated than Mary Poppins. It was something I learned as an adult. But in that case, like, it feels like the right thing that could be remade, and Imelda would play the part that Angela Lansbury played, of this woman who's living alone, training to become a witch, and she has to look after these kids in wartime Britain. And then she has to go into London, like there's a magical bed. She goes into London to try and find this spell. She meets a hottie. They go underwater on a trip. Like, it's magical, and she learns. Actually, she does end up alone again. Like, it's not like, oh, this is a family unit. She does learn to look after the kids and having, all this kind of more domesticated things. But she also is still single at the end. Your man goes off to war. And he learns that actually being this sort of what would you call him, like jack of all trades, like trying to avoid like national service and all this is bad. And do you not think, like, Imelda singing those songs? So there's a lovely
bobbing along on the bottom of the beautiful bride,
dancing under the water, and the song where she's substitutial locomotion, all that, where she's like trying to do the spell with the clothes, and it turns to a dance. I just think she'd be wonderful.
Oh, no, that's a great show. Yeah. That would be wonderful to see. Yeah, Bedknobs and
And they could
Broomsticks.
do that as a, like, Disney have enough money. That would easily make money. Don't let Rob Marshall do it. I don't mind Rob Marshall, but he's doing like Little Mermaid, Mary Poppins Returns, or whatever that was, Mary Poppins 2. Just get someone else like fresher and more exciting, and I don't mind like a nostalgic sort of British tone to it. Like someone like Matthew Warchus, actually, who directed Pride and has done like Matilda the
There you go.
musical on stage. He'd be perfect. So
Great.
guys, throw your money at them.
I love it. What a fabulous, fabulous idea. To flip it around, we mentioned The Awakening very briefly, and although it's not great, there is something about her which is very effective in horror. So I was trying to think of like which really interesting British directors would I like to see a horror, and I think quite specifically quite an old period type horror. So I was thinking of like Sally Potter fancied returning to period cinema and doing a horror film with Imelda in the lead or a lead part, the villain role. I don't know. That would be great. Or if we wanted something even edgier, if Jonathan Glazer fancied doing something to that effect, then I would chuck all my money at either option. The specifics I'm not sure about, but I think there's something in there, the germ of a great idea. Sally, Jonathan, please feel free to run with this.
So I only came up with two for Imelda because I was so like married to both of these, and anything else wouldn't match it. But so we've already talked about she's well able to sing, and she doesn't get to do that in film. I was thinking of a story about an Irish woman, and it can be, present day or a few decades ago or whenever, but in the 20th, 21st century, who is, she's a mother, she's a wife, she has all these things going on. she's dedicated, a bit like Vera Drake, but she's fed up also, like she's frustrated. But she has like this love for musicals and musical theatre.
Yeah.
And the story like follows her as she bit by bit finds a way to like share this and to share her voice and to share her love of it, because in her community there isn't anyone else that shares that. um I think I'm not thinking of like a cheesy sort of movie. I'm thinking of something kind of like, it could even end up that like it could be as little as she receives a letter back from somebody, like she writes it, she like sees it on TV, some stage performance, and decides like, oh, I should write them a letter, because that's the sort of thing she would do. And then they send back something and was like, if you're ever in London, let me know. And it ends with her thinking like maybe she'll go to London and she'll go see this performer in person. Do you know, like that sort of
Yeah.
tone vibe, which is totally catnip to someone like me. Because she's happy with her life, but this is like brings her huge joy in a kind of selfish way. Not that it's a bad thing, just more like everything else she gets joy from is derived from everyone else. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. So an epic story about one woman's like, I don't know, love of culture and discovering it. And I was like thinking who could do it, because I'd look like, for me, like aesthetically and everything in my head is like very Irish. So I'd get like Lenny Abramson, who is an Irish director who
Oh,
did
yeah.
like Garage and Room and Adam and Paul, and is really super. I also did Normal People. I always forget like the most famous thing someone has done, but he's good because he's very good at like capturing people in very human scenarios. So yeah, that is my wish.
I think that's a great one. I love that. Mine's. I think there's kind of tonal similarities, perhaps, in what we were wanting. Um, I was just thinking of that incredible chemistry that we see from Maggie Smith and Imelda that we saw in Harry Potter, and then we saw again in Downton Abbey. And I'd want them to be able to explore that a lot more. So what started swirling up in my head was the idea of like them playing a mother and daughter, and she would have had her quite young in her life, perhaps that's what we're led to believe. And then Maggie disowns Imelda at some point, probably because she's married the wrong man or something. Just there's this bitterness here, and it had been building up into this point, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And she's gone. She's not prepared to deal with a daughter who disrespects her wishes like that, and she's out. And years and years and years have gone by. And then Imelda Staunton's character discovers something she never knew about her mother, Maggie Smith, in that she has this secret fortune, and tries to then kind of worm her way back into her life. She's getting on. She understands that she doesn't have all that she anticipated she would have when she married the wrong person. And she sees a way out of it in trying to weasel her way back in. So there's this kind of artificial element as she's getting her way back in, but then I would want it to kind of come to this massive confrontation where these women should have never come back together. They were never meant to be together in the first place. And maybe that confrontation is something like Imelda was never her child in the first place. She maybe raised her sister's child against her will. She never wanted her. She never wanted anything to do with her. And at one point in her life decided she was done with her. And she's not getting any of the money because she is none of hers, none of her business, and she wants nothing to do with it. So whereas that sounded like it could almost be like a cheeky comedy, a Stephen Frears Philomena type thing, I'm actually thinking, I don't know, more low key, allow it all just to happen in the work of the performers. And I don't know why, but I thought of the film Supernova, directed by Harry McQueen and written by him, which is a love story between Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci, which came out a year or so ago. And there's just something about the tone of that. It's very quiet. It's sort of meanders along, but there's this kind of foreboding sense that something, is going to happen, perhaps. But it's also beautiful. I don't know. I could just imagine him capturing, because I would want the beginning of it to be quite I don't know, a touching, beautiful reconciliation, and then there to be this fallout and be like, no, actually, you've got this all wrong. Um, so yeah, that was my. I just want to see them both do something really interesting together, and I think something like that could be that.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great. They've a very like on screen in Harry Potter and in Downton Abbey. There's real sparks between them. It's really would be really fun to watch. I'm imagining like Lady Killers, Keeping Mum, Succession, like what's the Shirley MacLaine, Meryl Streep film? All of this mixed into
Oh,
one
you were
to come
getting
up with.
that. Yeah. So I think it's more likely it would be that. It would more likely be a Stephen Frears type thing, which is grand too. I'm happy for it to be something like
Well, I was
that.
going to say Philomena is maybe it's being Irish, but to describe it as a light film, I was like, oh
Oh
my lord.
no, it is and it isn't. I love Philomena. I think it's great, but that's
Yeah.
just not. I was wanting something more hard edged, or just less of
Or
a.
what about Notes on a Scandal 2? Judy is Maggie, and Imelda is Kate,
Oh,
and just let them at
stunning.
it.
Yeah, why not? Who would say no to that? What a treat that would be.
If it was up to me, Notes on a Scandal would be remade every year with different great, amazing performers in those parts. So anyway, but your actual idea sounds much more artistic and and a better idea than my cheap kind
No.
of way to
Lovely.
entertain the gays.
But that's no bad thing.
It's just so good. And like just to go back, so what are recommendations out of all of these great films that Imelda's been in? I think mine would be either Paddington 2 or Sense and Sensibility or Vera Drake if you want something a bit more gritty.
Yeah.
And what would yours be?
I mean, Pride is just my go-to. I recommend it to anyone. I think it's always a winner, so I will continue to do that, and I will use this as a platform to continue that. However, I think Vera Drake is incredible, and I would push people towards it. And it sounds bleak, but it's not entirely. And there's actually quite an easy in when you start watching it, so it's not a tough sit necessarily. But it's very, very rewarding, so it's definitely worth it. I would absolutely go for one of those. But yeah, Sense and Sensibility is absolute bliss as well. But since we talked about it on our Harriet Walter episode, please feel free to revisit that. We do, I think, glowingly recommend and talk about it at some length there. So for the case of this, Pride and Vera Drake.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with any of the films, really.
No.
So yeah. Oh well, what a treat! Like what a great way to celebrate my birthday. I know I chose it and I've had control over this, but
yeah,
what a way to do it. And another birthday treat I'd love is if you would rate us, subscribe to us, share on to a friend, anything like that. It really helps, and it's lovely hearing from you too. So if there is anything or anyone you would like us to focus on, let us know on our social media channels, which are don't know her _pod on Instagram and on Twitter, or drop us an email at don'tknowherpod@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Give Michael the gift he deserves and spread the word. We're ever so grateful of everything. Thank you to those who rated over the past couple of weeks. There's been some really lovely, lovely messages come through. It's been a delight to read them. So thank you so much, and please continue to do so. We appreciate it immensely.
And yeah, so this is the last episode of 2021. We'll be back in mid-January with another exciting installment. Who will be? Who knows?
We don't know her either.
Yeah, we don't know who it'll be, but the suspense is killing us. So yeah, we'll see you soon. So have a great Christmas, have a great New Year, and just enjoy whatever you're doing, guys. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for making 2021 a lovely year for the Don't Know Her pod. Merry Christmas, everyone. See you next year.
Bless your cotton socks. Bye.
Bye.